investigation the corruption allegations made by General Shlanshlam Konazi. Everything has been done to divert General Konazi's attention. General Konazi will be the catalyst in breaking the corrupt back of all these corrupt bastards, black and white, without exception. The fact of the matter is, what has been happening? General Sibia from the police had brought an application to court to be reinstated after he was suspended by General Masimola. The court dismissed his case. And now the interesting thing happens. It is claimed that Paul O'Sullivan, via an NPO, non-profit organization, had financed General Sibia's court application. For what rhyme or reason? Is this Gangsters United? And Paul O'Sullivan spouts on Business News with Alex Hogg. What is he blackmailing Alex Hogg with? Can't Alex Hogg understand what is going on? It's time that Paul O'Sullivan be investigated. Oh, and by the way, I will have in the next month documentary proof pertaining to money laundering of Paul O'Sullivan. Now put that in your pipe and smoke it. Because General Shlanshlam Konazi will expose a lot of things, such as the 121 files, dockets, which General Sibia had removed on instruction of Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa, Minister of Police, Minister Mkhunu. The files have been given back to General Konazi's squad, and Firoz Kashalia, the current acting Minister of Police, doesn't like it at all on Cyril 9 wasted years instruction. Why? Because his name is in the documents? Those are the allegations. Those are the allegations. And that's also why we don't see the CR17 bank statements, which had been sealed by Justice Mbandla, Dunstan Mbandla, the Deputy Judge President. So he's been rewarded by the cupcake, Cyril 9 wasted years, Ramaphosa. You want to talk to us about corruption? About the judiciary? There are good people, but they are isolated, they are victimized. And it's not in the judiciary, it's everywhere. And Julius Malema, apparently his name is also mentioned and linked political killings. It makes sense. It makes sense. He's not a happy chappy. He's our Julius. A man with a place called Palmietfontein in Limpopo, with massive swimming pools, a very beautiful mansion, nearly a chateau, baseball, volleyball, netball, tennis courts, whatever you want to call them. And he flies in by helicopter. Windgat. Arrogant. And this is Joe Block that came to Johannesburg in denims and velskoene. Typical South African dress for the rural areas, the platteland. Now he's wearing Gucci. Yeah, Gucci. And how many white people have been sponsoring him? Yes, white people. Not just stealing of money in illegal contracts and the money from VBS Bank. Advocate Terry Motal, who wrote the report on the VBS Bank, is also the lead prosecutor at the Madlanga Commission. It depends on what we are going to do in this country. Every one of us who's got half a brain cell functioning has got an onus to do something. As they used to say, Dad, Granddad, what did you do in this situation? What did you do? What are you going to do? You gutless, spineless people. Open your eyes. Paul O'Sullivan threatens people. But Paul O'Sullivan's hands are clearly dirty. He has been nominated, been said, found guilty by a court of law and said to be a threat to the community. And yet nothing happens to him. It is like Julius Malema, found guilty of hate speech, and he's still not yet arrested. Vicky Momberg has been arrested, gone to prison. Peggy Sparrow has been arrested, gone to prison. Why not Julius Malema? Shamila Batoy, as I've said, she seems to be a competent jurist. She's not a good manager. She doesn't prove that she's competent at all. Why isn't Malema not arrested? So the next question is, Batoy is leaving NPA in the next 4 months. Does it absolve her from any action? Does it absolve her from any future action in her personal capacity for failing to safeguard the interests of the country and of the Constitution? No. Why should it be? And then we have the newspapers. We have the newspapers attacking people such as Rob Hersov, Daily Maverick, and they roll out a troll by the name of George Claassen, a horrible little man. Same Daily Maverick that employs Micah Reddy. Micah Reddy, I know him personally, a journalist who's really got no character, who would write what he is either taught, told, or paid for. And despite bringing charges against him, nothing has been done until today. But he sits there and now he writes a book along with Paulie van Wyk. Paulie van Wyk is a woman with guts. Micah Reddy is a disaster in the making. But then they roll out this troll, George Claassen. George Claassen works for News 24. George Claassen in 2007 was found guilty along with News 24, Naspers, in a CCMA case. And lo and behold, he is not fired. He had a website by the name of Skeptic SA. He is described as the Antichrist. The things he put on his website, anti-religion, anti-God, LGBTQ. And then he says he was a professor at the University of Stellenbosch. How he became a professor, I would like to know, in the Department of Journalism. He was fired from Stellenbosch. He didn't resign, didn't go on pension, he was fired. He was a so-called journalist for 3 years at News 24. They couldn't employ him in any position. He would mess it up, from the mailroom right through to the computer den. Oh, by the way, he's the brother of Wynand Claassen, the Springbok player. And it's interesting, the Claassen family don't talk about George. But he is rolled out to say that News 24 is not in the pocket of the ANC. Hey, Wena, what nonsense are you talking? You're a disgrace to yourself and to everybody. Why are you not locked up and the keys thrown away? George Claassen is being used by Daily Maverick to push their agenda of sucking up to the ANC. Be careful what you read. Read with an open mind and research. There are so many things that will come to light with General Kwanazi's testimony. Will there be action? The Hawks do not instill confidence. I know personally. The Hawks do not instill confidence. They will come to you with a little rhyme and telling that you do not know and you do not understand. But they get the salary. It's time that every official that can be implicated must be so implicated, must be named and shamed. Despite our legal system being as pathetic as it is, it still functions. It can still function. Rob Herschel says South Africa is uninvestable. You cannot invest in this country because of the crime, the corruption, the lack of action. Eskom has got a shortfall of 23 billion rand according to the news, which comes from the sale of prepaid electricity vouchers, which were never recorded on the system. Municipalities are billed for electricity they never received. But this is top management, and senior management must be involved. No action is taken. And NERSA says, oh, there's a 54 billion rand shortfall, therefore the public must pay. When is the time that the public are going to start making their back stiff and standing up and say, enough, stop this train now? How many people are being killed? Musi Katmatlala and Cyril's cousin, nephew, Momela, implicated in the corruption at Tembisa Hospital, implicated in the murder of Babita Deokaran. And yet, Johannes Lessufi, the Premier of Gauteng, makes a lot of noise and you see him nowhere. Why? Why? Becky Cele, the previous Minister of Police, is implicated everywhere, also in the Congo. Why were South African troops in the Congo? To protect the ANC's interests, including that of Becky Cele. It was the same in the Central African Republic in 2013. But nobody talks about it. They only will talk to you off camera, off the record. Because the Defence Force, there is no reckoning. People are intimidated. Now they say, but the generals are flexing their muscles. General Mapianya. The generals are flexing their muscles simply because the Gaddafi money is being stored, or what's left of it, in Musina, Hoedspruit. And the military has taken control over it because they do not trust the politicians who promise to give them, to share with them the spoils. Who is going to be liable for refunding the Libyans when they come to claim their monies? $7.8 trillion. Even more, I believe. Who is going to have to pay? The public, not Cyril the cupcake 9 wasted years, Ramaphosa. Him and his cabinet. And he sits in his cabinet, and all the intelligence services report to him via our very own voodoo mama. But Cyril doesn't know anything. He is shocked in everything. He does not know. I hope General Kwanazi shocks the living daylights out of him, because it's time that something like this happens in the system, because this will give impetus to many other officials who have insider knowledge but who are too victimized and too afraid to raise the issues. One of the biggest problems we have in this country are the liquidators. Kloete Murray and his son have been assassinated, as well as a guy by the name of Bouwer van Niekerk. The story has not yet been told. What has happened and why have they been assassinated? One can be insensitive about their assassinations, and it's very easy. But the fact of the matter is, these are human beings with families. But were they human beings toward other human beings? That's a question that's still got to be answered. I've got a copy of a letter here written by one Anton Lee on 18 August of this year to the liquidators of Mirror Trading International, Herman Bester, Adrian van Rooyen, Christopher James Roos, Jacqueline Barnard, Deidre Basson, Shavon Sinclair Cooper, Kevin Titus, and Daniel Ndlovu. This morning I heard Adrian van Rooyen passed away in Stellenbosch. He received over 12 million rand in the MTI liquidation. MoneyWeb. Listen what MoneyWeb says. MoneyWeb on 16 July 2025 by Sharon Ryan says, what is going on? The MTI estate had dwindled from 1.1 billion in 2021 to around 550 million rand by December 2024. The only people paid were the liquidators. Where have the money gone? In the situation of Anton Lee writing to the liquidators, he asked questions about the disproportionate liquidation costs and lack of victim compensation. And he refers that it was being publicly reported that 113 million rand had been spent by the MTI estate on legal and investigative costs, with 135 million reserved in additional fees. Yet less than 14 million had been recovered for creditors. He asked accounting of all these costs. The FX choice of bitcoins, over 1,200 bitcoins, which was surrendered to the liquidators. And the question is, was it in Johann Steinberg's state? Remember, Steinberg died in Brazil. Or did it belong to MTI? There's no proof that it belonged to MTI. But the liquidators had been paying themselves like you cannot believe. Neither was Steinberg ever interrogated while he was alive in Brazil. There have been so many things going on. There's questions about 3 hardware wallets pertaining to Bitcoin that was recovered from Steinberg's home in 2020. And yet the liquidators just carry on and lead it to request full transparency and future engagement. And he addresses the bias valuation method on Bitcoin repayment, because listen what the liquidators say. They say if you invested 10,000 rand and you got back 15,000 rand, You must repay at today's value from dollars to rand. Therefore, you must repay 60,000 rand. You were paid in rand, even if it was quoted in dollars. How can you pay more back than you received? How can they claim that back? Who's the friendly judge that's helping them? Why are all the remedies not being exhausted? There are so many questions to be asked and so many secrets at all times. The fact of the matter is, Van Rooyen received 12 million rand for his work in MTI. So did all the other liquidators, from 5 upwards to anything else. And Vaughan Victor's name is not here, but he received 5 million. Vaughan Victor, the loudmouth so-called liquidator who never did a pupilship and who's trading in Ankole cattle along with Cyril Ramaphosa. His claim to fame. He received over 5 million. When you look at the fraud, Louis Liebenberg still sits in prison more than a year later after his arrest. His applications for bail are always withdrawn or postponed. He's now under for psychiatric evaluation. He is linked to 4 billion rand going missing. And then we get to a beautiful one, the Exodus. XODUS, Exodus Gold Investment Corporation, Cooperative. Application was bought for their liquidation. The court said they have 30 days in which to provide all the documents and all the proof that the money is there, some 93 million. As the chair, one Joshua van Zyl is running it by remote control from George in the Western Cape. Joshua van Zyl was the PA to Hendrik van der Berg at BOS, the Bureau of State Security. He's been entangled in court cases against the Lesotho and the South African government for diamond concessions which were flooded with the building of the Lesotho Highland scheme. Now the situation is, where is the money? People invested in gold. People received dividends on the investment until Van Zyl became the chairperson, who then unilaterally decides he is not going to pay out any dividends. And the so-called board of directors agree with him. Why? Contrary to the constitution, they just tear it up and write their own constitution. What is going to happen? What came out? There's a trust, the Murela Trust, which Van Zyl is running for his court cases against the state. And it seems that the money had disappeared from Exodus into the Murela Trust. Let's see what happens on the liquidation. Let's see what happens. Jerome Kwanasi, as a catalyst, have got so many things which he needs to address. He's but a human. But everybody of us, you have a responsibility. Open your mouth. Open your mouth and stand up. Your strength lies in people. Your strength lies in the majority of people. The masses getting together and saying, enough is enough. 1,000 children died in the Eastern Cape due to hunger. Why? Why? This democracy. Saloris Pass in Cape Town. From Saloris Pass to Cape Town is one shanty town. Why? Oh, They predominantly Xhosas had migrated from the Eastern Cape. Thabo Mbeki is stomping around. And still, it does not stop. Let me tell you about the Mjejane Trust. The Mjejane Trust in Mpumalanga was created for the Mjejane people, the people from Mjejane. And that was related to restitution. But anybody working with the CPAs will know that in a CPA, on 10 members, you will have 120 different views. In the end, a legal court-appointed administrator took over. His name is Zili. He's currently in Australia on holiday with the Mjejane Trust's money. But the government does nothing. The Department of Land Affairs seems to be in his back pocket. He has appointed at the one lodge which they have his brother-in-law, who is now being arrested for sexual harassment. His sister is now running the lodge. Everywhere he goes, he appoints his own family. Oh, there are people in Sandton, some advocates that are looking into this on their own cost to take this on because they also hate injustice. Zili, it is claimed, has captured the courts in Mpumalanga. There is so many things going on. Zili has paid himself in the time as administrator apparently over 50 million rand. And the Mjejane Trust and the people have received zilch, fuck all. And they are saying to me, that's typically the Boers. It's for the land. That's why the Anglo-South African War was there. Anglo-Boer War. I said to them, no, it wasn't the land. It was the riches of the land. The gold and the diamonds. That's what Cecil John Rhodes wanted on behalf of the British Empire. It's not about the land. But where are the people? Where's Lawyers for Human Rights? Where's Joan Fobbs? Where's Barbara Hogan? These are stand-up people, or so I would like to believe. There's people in need. Their monies have been stolen. I'm not saying there's no problems in the Mjejane community. What I'm saying is there's clearly a situation of people enriching themselves on an unjust basis. How are we going to use General Mkhonazi to break the back of all this corruption? That is a question we need to answer. That is the question, because people in high places are implicated. They're running away. They're doing everything in their power to cover it up. And Cyril, the cupcake, 9 wasted years Ramaphosa, who has all the intelligence services assembled in his office, via Kombutsu and Chivani, our very own voodoo mama. And he knows nothing. Like F.W. de Klerk, the prostitute of Potchefstroom, whose instruction was that every intelligence report will be shredded every day. His office was not interested in reading it. because he was playing another agenda. Yeah? And that is the problem. Nothing is new under the sun. Nothing is new. What are we going to do? Stop asking me what we can do. I've told you what we can do. Start flexing your muscles and opening your mouth. Start getting the documents out. Cyril the Cupcake says the DA are better governors in municipalities than the ANC. Yeah? 30 years you couldn't train the people. Since 1994, it was always said the municipalities are to be the vehicles of development. That's where the big money is. And that's where the money must be stolen. They talk about the 7 top billionaires in South Africa with bullshit figures. Those are only the figures in the public domain. What is not in the public domain? What is not in the public domain? And what about the black cartel? Busi Musi Katmatlala, Mamela, Cyril Ramaphosa, Julius Malema, Kweri Mantashe. What about the rest? Paul Mashatile. This is a black cartel. So we have now cartel against cartel. At least on the white cartel, I can say, when they came into contact and when they handled things for the state, they made money for the state. As in this government employees pension fund. I cannot say the same from the black cartel. What I can say is, and what I've heard, billionaires came to light from the government employee pension fund, and the real dividends did not flow back to the PIC, but it was shared with officials. Trevor Manuel must come and answer for that. What a quagmire of corruption we are. Because we tolerate it, we are equally to blame. I do not tolerate it. I hate it. I hate injustice and I hate your corruption.